Hello and welcome to Latokan Venture Capital TV. My name is Hovannes. I'm the head of liquidity support department at Latokan, and today I'm joined by Fabio. Uh, we are today
Scacciavillani.
Scacciavillani, right?
Yes.
Thank you. I decided not to take any prisoners
Don't
and go.
worry, don't worry. You can be bold.
All right. So me and Fabio are going to discuss the topic of startup advisory, the importance of startup advisors, and who we are actually looking for. So Fabio, just to start, just maybe you could introduce yourself to our viewers who are joining for the first time.
Yes, I'm an economist by training. I have a PhD from the University of Chicago in economics with a thesis on finance. Then I started my career at the International Monetary Fund, and I worked on countries as diverse as Spain, Israel, Sudan, Cape Verde, Turkey. And then I moved to the European Central Bank for the launch of the euro. And after that experience, I went to the private sector and worked as an economist in Goldman Sachs, London, in the global research department. Um, Once I joined the private sector, I decided to go more into operations. So I moved to the Arabian Gulf, and I worked in various sovereign institutions in Qatar, in Dubai, in Oman. That was my last stint in the Gulf, and I was the chief strategist officer of the Oman Investment Fund, which is the sovereign wealth fund of the Sultanate. Now I'm a partner in a boutique investment bank in New York called Golden Eagle. We have also offices in Dubai under the brand Amintad and in Hong Kong. And what we do, we help startups, grow ups, to raise funds, in particular on the over the counter market in New York, but more generally, depending on their needs. So that's in a nutshell the story of my life.
Right. That's a great story of life.
Thank you.
I- yeah, I'd love to have something like that later on. So, just if we're talking about startup advisory in general, as a startup, who would you think we are looking for? So, if we are in search of advisors, what characteristics should we look for in the first place? Is it experience, education?
I what I would do, would I recommend is to make an analysis of what are the areas where the startup does not have expertise, because things might be different. A startup might have a great technical department, so great scientists, great programmers, great developers, but might be lacking commercial
Correct.
acumen,
Knowledge, commercial
knowledge, experience, how to sell. No? So you need to get advice on how to sell. Somebody who knows the market, who knows the big players, who is reputable in the field where the startup operates. If you have both a great technical expertise, and a great commercial department, you might need financial advice, because people might not know how to raise money, how to make long-term financial projections, how to make a cash flow forecast, and so on and so forth. So, to make a long story short, you need to assess where your needs are more stringent, and that's where you need to find or pay for advice. Typically, startups do not have a financial advisor who can guide them through the various stages. And so what happens is that they resort to, whoever they find when they desperately need money, which means when it's too late.
Right, right. Absolutely agreed with that. And actually, when we're speaking about financial advisors, we as Latakin recently we were joined. Our advisory board was joined by Brent Geeman, the ex CFO of J.P. Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that's he's a great asset for us because really we needed somebody to take care of give us ideas on how to manage our financial flow,
Mm-hmm.
cash flow in a right way, because as startups grow, in my personal opinion, as startups grow, it becomes harder and harder to control the financial aspect of it. But
Absolutely.
essentially what we're looking for, ju- uh, taking from summing up what you said, what we're looking for as advisor is to somebody who will cover the loopholes of our team's knowledge and experience. So somebody who will be taking care and guiding us through aspects that we haven't had much knowledge and experience in. So yes, definitely, I think finances for most startups are one of these aspects.
Then it can be even on the business plan. Because the business plan is something people um, take in a sort of cavalier fashion.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a spreadsheet. You put a few numbers, you draw a linear
Right.
progression, and everything is fine. No, the business plan is what investors judge you on. So they presume that you are technically competent, otherwise, they wouldn't even speak to you. Then they see, okay, these guys have a great product. How much money will they make 5 years down the road? Now, that question is answered by the business plan. The more solid the assumptions are, the more credible your milestones are, the more likely is that you will find financial support in the market by investors, by family office, by pension funds, by venture capital funds, by crowdfunders, and so on and so forth.
Mhm. Right.
And if you say, 5 years down the road, I'll be making $1 billion in revenue, the business plan is the probability that from the point you are today, you will reach that 1 billion revenue target.
Right.
So, and if the if that probability is 10%, the valuation of your startup will depend crucially on that 10% probability. If the probability is 90%, the valuation will be 9 times bigger. So
Right.
keep that in mind in order to convince people. You need to demonstrate that you know the market, that you have clients who are reliable and trust you, that your product is innovative, and that the plan and the people who will sell it are experienced. They are not Alice in Wonderland trying to, who think that just because the product is great, it will sell itself from a website.
Right, right. Because yeah, your words are very important, of course, but the business plan should prove your words, right?
Yeah.
So the investor should see that your words are proven by your business plan and that you have milestones that you can just step on and to reach your goal that you're promising them in 5 years.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely, that's important. And as a person who is in the industry for a long time already, what are the main mistakes that you think that startups could be making that advisors can actually prevent?
The main mistake is, I would say, across the board, the idea that a good product will not need marketing, will not need a marketing strategy, will just need a couple of guys, with a suitcase who go around, or who sit at the desk waiting for a phone call, or maybe
Right.
making a phone call. It's more
There is
complex than that. You need to strategize on internet, digital marketing, direct sales, fair and events. So each of these areas requires money you will never see in a business plan, or never. You will often not see in a business plan enough resources devoted to the commercial strategy. No, people think that just because you have a product, a soft drink, better than Coca-Cola, you will become number one soft drink
right,
company in the world. It doesn't work like that.
of course.
Coca-Cola spends 1 cent for each can in terms of product, in terms of content, and 99 in advertising. And Coca-Cola is a brand that everybody in the world, you might just exclude some tribe in the Amazonas, but otherwise everybody knows the brand Coca-Cola. Yet that company spends a fortune, most of its budget, in
Right.
marketing. So
And
keep that in mind.
right. And however many actually researches come up on how bad drinking Coca-Cola actually is, this people's brand recognition, brand actually reputation does not sink. And this marketing campaign is a crucial part of this because they are actually contracting people for their marketing campaigns and advertisements that have this great reputation in their specific market. Let's say
Mhm.
football players, right? They are contracting, let's say, Messi and so on. And these people are actually forcing people to think that, hey, you read that research, just forget it. This is cool, just drink it. So it's all about the marketing and the advertisement, as you said.
No,
And
but notice, by the way, that they spend a lot of money in sports events,
right,
which would be counterintuitive because Coca-Cola obviously is a soft drink that, yeah,
sportsmen
rich
don't.
in calorie. So it's not exactly part of a healthy diet, or of the first thing that a sporty type would drink. Yet they use they do spend a lot of money in that field, exactly because that's a weakness, and that teaches you a lesson. You, in terms of, meaning the
Yeah,
startup,
yes,
you
yes.
have to know where your Achilles heel lies, and you have to cover it.
Yes, exactly. And actually, I think they've come to understanding that people who watch sports, that people who know sportsmen are not necessarily the people who do sports. So
Mm-hmm.
they have really understood that fact that
Mm-hmm.
honestly, most of people who watch sports most of the time and know these athletes will be the
Mm-hmm.
people who use Coca-Cola, who use soft drinks. So they are targeting the right market, although it sounds counterintuitive, right?
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
but because you see, the couch potato who watches ESPN,
right.
in any case, wants to be associated with a product that has this aura of, sporty image.
Exactly. And normally, unless you're just counting every calorie and stuff, you never care about Coca-Cola's bad
Mhm.
effects, do you?
Yeah, no,
And
but in any case, they have the product that caters to that market. They have Coca-Cola Zero, Coca-Cola
which is
Light,
more,
so
it's a
they
matter of
have made an effort to cover also that segment. So
right, right. And actually, in my opinion, many startups fail to differentiate between marketing and sales. They think that sales, telemarketing, just calling and forcing your product on a person is actually the marketing you should be doing.
mhm.
Many marketing campaigns, let's say TeamViewer, right? As if you think about it, TeamViewer should not be a company that will spend millions of dollars on marketing. But they recently contracted Manchester United as their shirt sponsor, and it's a deal that costs over $40 million. So when you think about it, it's not going to help their user acquisition much, but it's the brand recognition. So that's something that startups should really focus on. And
Absolutely.
what do you think should actually be, coming back to the topic of advisors? What should be the role of this startup advisor in the company? As in, should the advisor control the processes somehow, oversee the processes, or generate ideas, or give critical advice to the
Well, it would be great if the advisor could do everything,
right? And then you'd make
for
money,
free, possibly.
right?
Obviously, for example, when I'm advising a 3D printers producing company, now I didn't know much about it, so I actually took a 3D printer, I put it in my office, and I started to see how it works. I started to producing items, with the files, that could be read by the 3D printer. So I did myself what the client is supposed to do. So that is a learning process for the advisor, because you see the weaknesses. Because for an expert, yeah, then, oh, sure, you download the file there, then you change a little bit the parameters, and then wow, the 3D
Right.
object comes out there. It's not like that. I mean, for somebody who has done 3D printing for the past 10 years, it might look like that. For the
Exactly.
novice, it is not like that. So the advisor, in that particular case, needs to put himself or herself in the shoes of the client, and advise the startuppers on what it entails to move from the laboratory to the living room, or to the office. And that, I think, is important. It's important to enter into the nuts and bolts of the startup. So
Right.
to know the product, to have a, how can I say, orthogonal look at what they're doing, point out at the weaknesses, then you do a good job. Uh, Even as a financial advisors, because ultimately, if you put money, or if you induce people to put money in a venture, you want to know exactly what you're buying.
Right. And essentially, as if you're advising to the product itself, if you're a product advisor, first you put yourself in the shoes of the client who has never used even a similar product, and you
That's
try to
correct.
understand the product. And speaking
Mhm.
of the example that you brought of the printer, let's say a teacher from a rural area has got this printer. They've never used this printer, right? So they're trying to understand how it works. And the first instruction says install the driver. First, you have to explain what a driver is, and then explain how to install it. So it needs
Yeah.
to be, you first understand what problems the client may face, and then you can actually go to the so-called Gemba, right, and try to improve the processes on how to get to the result where these clients actually face the least of the problems. You actually eliminate some of the problems.
Yeah, especially where your business is SaaS,
Right,
software as a
right,
service,
right,
because you give the hardware for free and you want to make money on the service. If they don't know how to use it, guess what? That the equipment will stay idle and you don't make any money. So that is crucial, like mega crucial, in case your business model is SaaS. Um, and for example, an area where this aspect is underplayed is in medical devices, because they think, oh yeah, well, you sell the stuff to the hospital, they certainly have somebody who knows how to use it. No, they
right.
don't. They
They
don't.
don't. Yeah, they may
Or,
not.
or they might have one who knows how to use a lot of equipment, but he's so busy that he has barely the time to
Even train code.
make everything work, and doesn't have any minute to devote to a new machinery. Therefore, you have to make sure that you train the personnel to use your equipment. Otherwise, you risk that the equipment remains in some basement, or even if it's put in a lab, nobody knows how to operate it, or those few who know have left or don't have the time to operate it.
And in many cases they might know how to operate it, but they may not even be able to take full advantage of the opportunities that this medic. So there is this simple function that it does, and then there are millions of additional advanced functions that you will never know if actually the instruction doesn't explain clearly what to do and what this product can actually do.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
speaking in general of the advisors being financial, technical, product advisors, shall there be some kind of a separation between groups of advisor in the company? Shall there be a group of financial advisors, operational, and then there is technical advisors who may not be interested in financial aspect of it?
But as I said, it would be great to have somebody who is omniscient and omniscient and can give you can dispense his wisdom on every aspect.
Right,
Typically, you need to have. I mean, the marketing team, the commercial function. Uh, is very specialized. So you probably want to have an advisor on sales and marketing separated from the, say, financial advisor. Financial advisor, by the way, is somebody who makes money from fundraising. So I don't want to say that you get it for free, but certainly it won't be an immediate burden on your cash flow.
right, right,
The somebody who actually is capable of selling, of
right, right.
bringing revenues home, is somebody you need to pay from
And
day
if
one.
we are if we're exactly speaking of this topic that you've brought up, shall the startups actually treat the advisors as employees and pay them a salary, or shall this be stock options for your advice kind of a deal?
That I don't think there is a rule. I think both models might work well. It depends on specific circumstances. I would feel uncomfortable to give a definite advice on this. See what works best. depends also on how much money the startup has, on what alternative the advisor has. It's you have to make a decision on a case by case basis.
Right, right. And we're definitely looking for somebody who is going to be our advisors. I think we're definitely looking for somebody who has experience in multiple industries, not just one, and multiple industries, and understands the aspects of different companies. Let's say SaaS and then retail companies, or some direct sales. So, shall we look for somebody like this that has multiple industries experience?
But I think so, because there are aspects that are relevant across the board. So somebody who has been exposed to various markets uh, operates a sort of cross fertilization for the startup. If your product targets a niche with very specific characteristics, then I would recommend to use somebody who is knowledgeable in that particular niche,
Hmm. Hmm.
because it
And
might require specialized knowledge, and a generalist uh, might not be the right person.
mhm. If we're speaking about your personal opinion, do you think advisors always have positive influence on the business?
I would say it's a sort of reality check. No, it's sort of audit of the company. Now, sometimes they might raise issues that are totally irrelevant.
Hmm.
Sometimes they might point at crucial aspects that have been overlooked. So ultimately, the decision rests in the hands of the management of the startup, the founders, the technical experts, and so on and so forth. But mm, somebody who has a fresh look at what you're doing
Right.
is always useful. Uh, if nothing else, to confirm that some fears are overblown, or that certain potential problems
May
have
appear.
been taken into account.
Right. And at the end of the day, you definitely need this person who will give you constructive feedback
Yeah.
without being a part of the development of the product. They will just tell you as an eventual, let's say, customer-like person, right? They will give you
Yes.
feedback, and you definitely need it to grow. Any feedback shall be taken for growth,
Yeah.
right?
It's good to have somebody who has his or her interests aligned with the startup. For example, we as financial advisors don't take retainers, so we don't charge anything until the money is in the bank account of the
Mhm.
startup. Why? Because that provides ample evidence that our interests are aligned with those of the startup. If they don't raise money, we don't make money. Actually, we lose money because we have spent time,
Fine.
reputation, and everything else to promote a company that is not
Eventually, it's
worth it.
value that you lose, right?
Yeah. So
Definitely.
that is very important in my view, and for commercial advice, marketing would be good to add to the remuneration package a stock option,
Hmm. Hmm.
or to
Definitely.
have some emphasis, if not most emphasis, on the stock option.
Stock options are definitely additional motivation. And here at Latakian, every person who gets hired, they get stock options. So
Ah, good.
their future is actually in their hands. So as our CEO normally says, we are trying to actually make every single teammate a dollar millionaire. So the result of your impact on the world is that stock that you're later on going to have in the Nasdaq index, right? We're trying to make it there, and definitely our advisors board is very important for us on our way there. And if we're trying to sum up, if the startup is trying to fundraise, for example, how important is it for investors to look at the advisory board? Do they pay attention to the advisory board if there are any prominent figures there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The potential investors look at everything. I don't know, if you have Bill Gates, just to drop a name like in your board of directors, that is an element
Right. It gives a bit.
that is moving. Is capable of determining the decision. It's and now, barring like very famous people, if you have in your board somebody who has already had a success in a similar company, who knows the business, who has a stake in the company, who comes and gives a presentation and explains why this is a good investment, it's an advantage that puts the startup way up in the priority list.
Right.
So personal credibility, the CV of the founders and the key managers, it's an
Yes,
element
definitely.
that
This just puts
investors look at as among the first 3 or 4 items in the
right.
due
So
diligence process. I mean,
all it does actually is boost your credibility. It is just letting the investors know that you are being given feedback by the people who have reached this success before, and
Mhm.
they know how to reach it. They can repeat the success,
Mhm.
and you're actually getting this feedback from them, so you can improve your product and get there.
Yeah.
And speaking of our company, speaking of Latoken, if we are saying that our essential goal, eventual goal, is to get to an IPO, we cannot have a board of advisors of people, none of whom ever made it to IPO with their companies. We should actually have people in our board of advisors who know how to make it to IPO, who can at least give us advice on the legal, financial, licenses, on how to make it.
No, definitely, because the IPO is, I don't want to say a full time job, but for sure it absorbs a lot of resources from top management and I don't know, CFO, board. So it's not something, a contract you sign off and then somebody works for you. No, it's your primary responsibility. When you wake up in the morning, the first thought is, where am I in the IPO process?
Right. Where am I on my road to IPO? And that's something we start our meetings with. We are always starting our meetings with where are we on our road to IPO? What do we lack? What do we need? Where are we
Mhm,
good at?
mhm,
What should we
mhm, mhm.
focus at? So these are questions that advisors should help us understand. What is the main focus? What will get us? Which one of our products will get us to the IPO, and which one we are just wasting time on?
Yeah. By the way, in people's mind, the IPO is the culmination of a process. So it's the last stage of a long journey. Uh, because everybody thinks of listing on NASDAQ, I don't know, London Stock Exchange, and so on and so forth. However, we are active in the over the counter market in New York, which is a market where the investor have a high tolerance for risk. So it's a market where you can list, it's a broker dealer electronic platform, and you can list and raise money when you need to grow, not when you are
There.
a unicorn. You need 5 million to build your commercial department. You go to the OTC, you raise those 5 million, and it's cheap. It doesn't impose regulatory burden like NASDAQ. It doesn't cost you a fortune to stay listed.
Mhm.
So that is an alternative to the various
Stock
Series
market.
A, B, C, D, and whatever. So in that sense, a listing can come at a much earlier stage compared to the typical NASDAQ IPO. So there are junior markets where companies can raise funds, can raise several rounds of funds. And once you're listed on the OTC market in New York, the reputational effect is huge because clients, investors, shareholders, you say, I've been vetted by the Securities and Exchange Commission. I've been vetted by a bunch of venture capital funds. They believe in me. And this is the proof.
Right, right.
And
So
in my proof, you can see it every day on the through the price. So if I'm doing well and I convince people that I'm doing well, you see it reflected into the price. And that is a powerful, synthetic, and unquestionable element, proof of how reliable your business model and your startup is.
right, right. And this is where advisors' role comes in. Advisors shall advise you when
Mhm.
to actually list because the timing is crucial. You can
Absolutely.
list, you can actually list today, but your valuation will be 100 times lower than if you were to list in 1 year, let's say, when your users are like 8 times more, or the market is creating conditions that are comfortable for your listing. And
Mhm.
definitely, when you mentioned that you're not obliged to have the secondary listing, to stay listed there, and you can just do fundraising rounds, that's something that startups should definitely consider because they don't need to follow all the regulatory things that Nasdaq has to demand, and they can still get the money for growing. And definitely, growth is also definitely the one part of one piece of your roadmap to to the actual IPO, to the listing on Nasdaq.
No, no, the regulatory requirements on Nasdaq are mind-boggling.
Yeah,
So it costs typically $1 million just in legal fees to stay listed.
the
And
licenses, the regulatory,
the license, the paperwork, the investor relations.
the lawyers, how much you actually have to eventually pay the lawyers, because you need very good team of lawyers who will actually take care of this. You can This is your only chance to actually have an IPO. There is no second try. You need to make sure everything goes according to your plan and protocol.
No, yeah, exactly. You pay for those services because those are specialized services provided by, excuse me, SEC licensed law firms. So you don't just go to a small law firm in Kentucky and get things done, you know,
Right.
in
The old
the
way, right?
in the backyard. So,
Right. Just signing a couple of papers and that's it. You're
yeah,
there.
yeah, 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 yeah. Put fill the blanks there and sign it off.
Right. That's a huge process that companies actually have to go through before they actually list. The planning will take years actually. The planning for some companies takes years till they get to the actual IPO, the planning itself.
Yeah.
I I think we had an awesome discussion, Fabio. I
Thank you.
your time. Thank you so much for joining. It was an honor to speak with you. And I'm sure our viewers have learned a lot. And I'm sure for some of them later in their career, this is going to be very, very crucially important advice that you have given us. So I really appreciate your time and thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor, as usual, to be on your TV. And I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook. So if anybody wants to connect to me, please feel free. I'm very open, and I answer any message, all the messages I receive. Might take me a couple of days, but uh, I don't dismiss any form of communication.
Awesome. So, guys, if you're watching and you've joined late, remember that this is going to be posted on our social channels. Follow us, Latakian, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and you'll find the recording of this meeting with Fabio. Uh, Add Fabio on LinkedIn. Message if you have any questions. Definitely, you'll get very, very important and valuable advice, which will help you to actually make it to IPO with your future companies. Why not?
Yes, I hope so, and I hope that the my explanation and my views turn out to be useful for those who have been so patient and gracious to see the show today.
It was such a lesson for me, Fabio. I learned a lot. Thank you so much for your advice, and I hope to see you later on the Talk MVC TV.
Always, we always glad to be on your shows.
Thank you, Fabio. Have an awesome